Oh, man. Okay, so we're back. I'm sorry for the long wait, but I'm finally doing a team report on the team I used to get rank 1 in the world on Battle Stadium on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It was a wild team. It was really fun. This is the third time that I've gotten to number 1 in the world in the last, 2 years. So it's been, a fun ride, and this team was, really, really cool, just using it in the format. Super fun. Obviously, with, the way the meta is developing, the team still kind of holds up, but there is one particular matchup where it does have a little bit of a hard time, but, I mean, it is what it is. But obviously, I got to a record of 81 wins, 32 losses, played a bunch of really good opponents, but yeah, so let's do the team report. So, the team, to give you a bit of a history, it actually is centered around Annihilape and Whimsicott. Those were the two centerpieces of the team. The reason why is that I've always felt that beat up was a really strong strategy. I mean, it was used all the way back in the year 2011 with Whimsicott, Terrakion, and then as the years have gone by, obviously it's evolved to now be more beat up into Annihilape, just because the difference between Annihilape and something like Terrakion, I mean, Terrakion's obviously not in this meta because legendaries aren't allowed, but the difference is that Annihilape actually keeps the boost with its Rage Fist when you switch it in and out, where Terrakion, when you switched it out, it lost its attack stats because its attack would be raised, because when hit by a Dark-type move with its ability justified, then its attack would be raised. So, yeah, I just felt like this was always a strong strategy with the beat-up Annihilape stuff. However, I felt like it could be revamped a little bit, because obviously there's Mousehold Annihilape, which is another really strong pairing, but I felt like that core could be exploited pretty easily. So then I kind of came to the conclusion of why not use Whimsicott? It was the original kind of beat up user, and then plus it supports a team really well with Tailwind and all that. And then I just did this core, and then I kind of built around it from there based on other stuff I saw in the meta. So yeah, that was kind of a little bit of a history of the team. So obviously with Annihilape being the centerpiece of the team, obviously Rage Fist and then beat up, but the reason why this was such a big deal is because of the speed stat I put on Annihilape. It hits 122 points, where once you add the Choice Scarf multiplier of 1.5, you underspeed Whimsicott by 1 point. So Whimsicott hits 184. With this, you hit 183 with Annihilape, obviously allowing Whimsicott to beat up Annihilape before you attack with it, so then you get the boost and then you can just start clearing stuff off the field. Some people may be asking, why don't you go 121? And then do the rest in HP 164. Reason being is that when you go to a Pokemon like Mousehold, it hits a speed stat of 179. Now, if you hit 121 with Annihilape with the Choice Scarf multiplier, you hit 181. So some of you might be saying, wait a minute, still outspeeds Mousehold. However, there are Pokemon that speed creep Mousehold and hit 180, and then there's Pokemon that speed creep those Pokemon and then hit 181. So if you do 121 with Annihilape, then you hit the speed stat of 181, and then you don't speed creep those Pokemon. So that's how I came to the conclusion of going with 122, because you still outspeed those Pokemon and you're still slower than Whimsicott. I just did max attack into it just to maximize damage output. Some people say you could go 244 or whatever. I just like being able to maximize as much as I possibly can, because this is meant to be a very quick, fast attacker and just clear stuff off the field. And the other thing about Annihilape is that it does have a lot of just really good natural bulk. It has 110 HP, 80 defense, 90 special defense. So even if you don't really invest into its defense investment, it still can survive some pretty important hits and moves from opposing Pokemon. The thing that might seem interesting is, why do I have 4 in defense and 4 in special defense? For anyone that's new to VGC, obviously if you take out the 4 here and 4 here and then put in HP, you go from a HP stat of 205 to 206. But if you do this and then you go 4 and 4, then you gain 1 extra stat point. So that's just a little trick for anyone that's new to the game and trying to learn it. As far as the moves are concerned, Rage Fist, obviously that was what the team was built around. Close Combat, it's nice burst damage if you can't set up with Rage Fist. Final Gambit's a last resort move. I never really clicked it. It was very rare when I did, but it was used in very specific circumstances, where if I was against an opposing or Caladon, I could just click Final Gambit into it if it had +5 defense or +4 or whatever, just because Annihilape naturally has a higher HP stat than even max HP or Caladon. And then Rock Slide was really good into Volcarona, because Volcarona is obviously 4 times weak with the bug fire typing. And then in recent like in the past, I think, week or so at LA, I see that Charizard Sun team won, and then Rock Slide's really good at that team as well, because obviously it hits Charizard for a lot of damage. That team, I think, also has Incineroar, where with Defiant, if it intimidates you, it actually raises your attack, which is a kind of a nice ability to have. So yeah, the reason I went Terra Grass on Annihilate was to be able to ignore opposing Amoonguss Spore and Rage Powder. A lot of times I would run into teams that would have both Amoonguss and Golden Go on it, and people would go and then try to either Spore Annihilate on the first turn or Rage Powder away my Rage Fist and then try to KO with their own Golden Go. But obviously if you go Terra Grass, you could just ignore Rage Powder and just still attack into Golden Go, or you can't be put to sleep even if they, let's say, like protect Golden Go and then Spore into Annihilate. So either way, it's a win-win for you. So yeah, that's Annihilate. Really good Pokemon. Yeah. Going on to the next thing, our Caladon. This thing's kind of busted. In my opinion, it's like a top 5 Pokemon in the format. You can maybe even argue top 3. It's just, I mean, what can it not do? I mean, it's got amazing stats. It has a really good typing. I would argue Steel Dragon's probably the second best type combination in the game after Steel and Fairy. Insane ability and stamina, and not to mention the fact, like, Sturdy and Stalwart are also, like, decent abilities as well, but stamina, it's just, like, really good. The reason that I ran this, obviously, again, because it's, like, one of the best Pokemon in the format, but back in 2017, I would run Mudsdale a lot, and Mudsdale had the ability Stamina as well, and I remembered how good that Pokemon was. But when you just take something and then, like, make it better in almost every, or better basically in every single way, it's hard not to use something like that. Obviously, Assault Vest was to increase your special defense, but what does our Caladon live? So my Arcaladon, it was EV to survive a modest max special attack Earth Power from Ursaluna-Bloodmoon that has Life Orb. It only has a 6.3% chance to KO. And then Choice Specs modest Golden Go with max special attack with Shadow Ball only has a 0.4% chance to 2-hit KO you. I have to thank my friend, I think it was Gil, who actually like made kind of this Arcaladon set. Obviously, I modified it to fit more so my team with some of the EV spreads, but I got this idea off of him. I think it was Gil. It might have been Slayer or Vortex as well. It was one of those three. I know that for a fact, but I have a lot of credit to give those guys. They're the ones that kind of pushed me in the right direction with this. With Arcaladon, obviously, since you don't have Pelipper on the team, you can't really use Electro Shot, so I just filled that slot with Snarl. It was a huge deal against teams that were like size spams, so like Indeedee Armarouge or Indeedee Hatterini. It was also really good against Trick Room teams where, because a lot of the time they'll like lead something to set up Trick Room and you could just keep clicking Snarl, and then even if they switch in like, let's say, Torkoal, then you still lower its special attack and lower its HP, reducing the damage of Eruption. And then you could also go Terra Water to make the Eruption matter even less. So that was pretty great. With the speed stat, under Tailwind, you outspeed Dragapult by 1 point. Dragapult hits a speed stat, and I'll show you guys in a sec, of 213. So with our Caladon hitting 107, under Tailwind, you hit a speed stat of 214. So you outspeed Dragapult by 1, and then you could KO it back with Draco Meteor. Body Press, obviously, because of stamina, you could just set up with Whimsicott. So a lot of the times I would lead, like, Blood Moon, Whimsicott, and fake out that I was going to Tailwind and just start blowing stuff up with Blood Moon. And then I would just hard switch in our Caladon, not even Tailwind, and then just beat it up. And then you could pretty much win the game from there. So yeah, really good Pokemon. The reason that I have it being Terra Water, which might seem very interesting to a lot of people, because I know the most common Terra type, I think, is Grass, if I'm not mistaken. The reason I did Water is because of multiple purposes. The first one is that Water as just a defensive type is just, in my opinion, better than Grass. You're only weak to Grass and Electric, and the thing is, the only real offensive Grass type in the format right now that's being used is Rillaboom, but Rillaboom is obviously a physical attacker, so if you're at +4, +5 defense, even if you do go Terra Water, you're still going to eat a hit pretty nicely, unless they crit you, obviously, which would really suck. But that was the reason for Terra Water. And then also there's not a lot of prevalent Electro types in the format. The only real, like, true Electro type is Electabuzz, but it's used more so in a supportive role rather than an offensive role. And the moves that it typically runs is like Electro Web, which has very low base power. So even if they do click Electro Web into you, it's not going to do a whole lot. The only Pokemon that really truly uses like a good electric move is opposing Arcaladon with Electro Shot, but obviously, like, you don't have to Terra type into those Caladon into water. You could just leave it as the Steel Dragon. The other thing about Caladon is that it was also really nice as a pivot into like Scale Shot users. I know Scale Shot Dragonite has become really popular in the last few weeks. So if you make like a really nice call and predict a Scale Shot, then you could obviously switch in and then just get like +4, +5 defense and then win the game from there. But yeah, really good Pokemon. Please nerf this thing, or like get rid of something. Get rid of Stamina. That's what I would say to do with it, but whatever. The next Pokemon is Bloodmoon. Very simple spread. With the 98 as a speed stat, you outspeed Talonflame and Tailwind by 1 point. Oop, I almost clicked on the wrong thing. Click on the right thing. Okay, good. Talonflame hits 195, but obviously if you hit 98 as a speed stat, then with a multiplier of 2 under Tailwind, you hit 196. So you outspeed Talonflame. And then the thing is, I just wanted to go max special attack to increase its damage output. The thing is, Ursaluna has such great natural bulk with its HP and defense that you don't really need to invest into it. The thing that you really do need to invest into, though, is probably its special defense, but obviously since it's fast, there wasn't much leeway for that. There were many times where I would just flat out click Terra Normal and then just like Tailwind next, use like Tailwind and Whimsicott next to it, and then I'll just like Terra Normal Blood Moon something, or Terra Normal like Hyper Voice, and then I'll just clear a team. There were like multiple games that I won within 2 or 3 turns just because of Blood Moon and the damage output that it has. In my personal opinion, I know that this is very controversial. I personally think it's the best Pokemon in the format. I know a lot of people say Sneasler and Goldengo are, and I think they both are very good as well. But Ursaluna, just its ability to rip holes through teams with the right support is insane. I think it is really, really strong. Yeah, so Earth Power, obviously, for opposing like Caladon, Hyper Voice for spread, Blood Moon to blow stuff up. With the investment, I already mentioned before, I only put 4 in HP and 4 defense. They're both naturally very high stats, so like you don't need to invest much, and then you just dump the rest into special defense, and then you try to give it as much leeway as possible, because the one weakness of Ursaluna is that special defense isn't the greatest, but obviously I can't throw Assault Vest onto it because Caladon has it. But really great Pokemon. Loved this thing. Going on to the next one, this is probably the most interesting pick of the team, being Gyarados. So there's like a huge history with regards to this slot. This is also supposed to be Terra Steel, not Terra Water. That was my fault. This Gyarados, so this slot originally used to be like Magmar with Follow Me, and then I realized the team had a lot of issues against Indeedee, Sneasler, and Dondozo. So then I switched it over to my own Dondozo, which was like fine into those matchups, but it was a little awkward into opposing Dondozo Tatsugiri matchups, because in order to win those matchups, I would basically have to hit a Fissure with it. And Fissure, as many of you know, is a one-hit KO move, but it's only 30% accurate, and it was just, there's too much randomness with the move. It wasn't consistent, so obviously that wasn't a great way to win that matchup. So then I tried out Goldengo, which it helped out a lot with the Indeedee Sneasler, but again, it didn't really help out with Dondozo Giri. And then I eventually landed on Gyarados. For anyone that might remember correctly, I think it was about either a year and a half ago or 2 years ago, if my memory serves me right, where Gyarados was actually popular in one of the metas. I forget which regulation it was, but it was on this like team where it was like Gyarados, Iron Hands, Ting Lu, and then some other stuff. And I just kind of realized like Gyarados, it's good, it's decent enough into Indeedee Sneasler because it has nice natural bulk behind screens. Obviously, you can intimidate Sneasler. It's all right into Dondozo Giri. Obviously, you're not going to use it to KO it, but you can intimidate Cycle, and with Reflect, you could really reduce the damage output by them, and then eventually pivot out into Blood Moon, Terra Normal, and then just blow it up with your own Blood Moon. But yeah, this was like a really nice pick for the team. I originally was going to keep Goldengo on it before I switched to Gyarados, but the issue that I was running into was, again, Dozo Giri, but also I was noticing a lot of Sneasler and Indeedee were getting paired up with Sandcores, where it was like Excadrill and Tyranitar, which Goldengo has a really hard time against because a lot of Tyranitar now run Assault Vest and Knockoff, which just hit Goldengo for a lot of damage, and then Excadrill obviously has Ground-type moves. So Gyarados, it was also another nice option to that team. I know the Flying type doesn't help, but having Intimidate to reduce the damage and Waterfall was really nice. Thunder Wave was for speed control, Taunt was for Amoonguss and Porygon 2. It was obviously to stop Amoonguss Spore and Porygon 2 from clicking Recover and Trick Room. And then Citrus Berry was just to maximize how long it was able to stay on the field and staying power. The Terra type was Steel. I'm going to be honest, after I put Gyarados on the team, I have not Terra'd it once. If I were to redo this, I would actually probably go Terra Water to increase the damage output. And then the other thing about with its EV spread, I'm going to be very, very honest with you guys. I have the complete wrong EV spread, but this is what it was in game. And I was too lazy to actually make the proper EV spread for it, so I just used this. If you really actually want to like optimize Gyarados on your own time, what I would do is I would actually move Gyarados down in speed to 108 and then dump the rest into HP. The reason you want 108 as a speed stat is so you're 1 point faster than our Caladon. So if you run into multi-scale Dragonite, for anyone that doesn't know how multi-scale work, it basically reduces damage on like the first hit Dragonite takes when it's at full HP. So what you do is that you would obviously outspeed our Caladon. You could Waterfall into Dragonite, break the multi-scale, and then Draco Meteor and kill it. Where if it was reversed and then you Draco'd first and then Waterfall, then you won't be able to kill it. So that's what I would do with Gyarados. I would also change the Terra type to Water. But the reality is that this was the spread. Oh, this was the spread. But yeah, it was a really nice addition to the team. It did way better than I thought it would. I just kind of put it on because, like, in theory, it sounded good. But just because something sounds good in theory doesn't always mean that it's going to work out. But this actually worked out for me this time. So that was pretty awesome. Going on ahead, Whimsicott. Really simple spread. I don't have to get too much into it. It's just max speed, max special attack, 4 in HP. I had the Focus Sash still left when I was making the team, so obviously throwing it on Whimsicott seemed like the best thing. I know a lot of people now try to go like Covert Cloak and Bulk on it, but the thing is I've always felt that Sash Whimsicott was the best just because it naturally, even if you do run Bulk into it, it doesn't have like great defensive stats. It has poor HP. Its defense is fine, and then special defense is also like but the low HP stat really doesn't help it, and then it also has a poor type combination where you're like where you're just weak to a bunch of different stuff. Fairy doesn't add any, like, at least to my knowledge, doesn't add any resistances that well, actually, does it resist Bug? I really should know this. Whatever. It doesn't really matter, but not really great defensive type, and that's the overall message I'm trying to say. But yeah, so Whimsicott, the reason I did Terra Ghost was to stop Fake Out into it. There were so many games where someone would try to fake it out turn 1, and I'll just Terra Ghost and then beat up into Annihilate and then just flat out win from there. The other thing also about Whimsicott is that with Taunt, this was also used for Porygon 2 and Amoonguss with regards to Spore, Rage Powder, Recover, and Trick Room. Tailwind obviously supported the team really well. It supported Bloodmoon well, these Pokemon as well. It also even helped Gyarados, even though Gyarados was used as more of a defensive role. And then Moonblast was just so I could have a damaging move, just because I'm not crazy about Pokemon that do not have any single attacking moves on them. Obviously, Beat Up would be an attacking move, but it does virtually no damage, so you might as well not even have... It's like you basically don't even have an attacking move at that point, so I just did Moonblast as the last move slot. But yeah, this is a really good Pokemon on the team. Moving on ahead, Grimmsnarl. So Grimmsnarl, what it does as far as the EVs are concerned, if I could remember correctly, I think it survives... Actually, no, I know for a fact that it survives Golden Go that has Choice Specs and is timid in nature with max special attack. It survives and Make It Rain from it if you have Light Screen up. It only has a 6.3% chance to KO it. Sorry, I was like kind of getting the cobwebs out of my head. I was like looking at it like, oh man. But that's what it does survive. It only has 6.3% chance to KO. It also survives Timid Golden Go that has no boosting item, Make It Rain, without screens. So obviously, like if a Golden Go has leftovers, then you'll be able to survive and Make It Rain. If it's timid in nature. If it's modest, then you're probably going to go down. But that only has, I think, a 12.5% chance to KO you if it's timid without a boosting item. So obviously, if it has Metal Coat or Life Orb, you're going to go down. But yeah, that's a very like specific thing. Also, the also the Grimmsnarl, Dragonite with Choice Band, Max Attack, and Extreme Speed. It 3-hit KOs you 100% of the time. So in 2 hits, it won't be able to take you out, but on the 3rd hit, it will. Obviously, you could just stop it with going Terra Ghost, but just in case you need an out with it, you also have that. As far as the speed is concerned, this was just to outspeed other Grimmsnarl. It may not be enough. Honestly, if I were to redo the spread, I would actually probably go 4 and then 36 in speed, because not only would this make you outspeed other Grimmsnarl, but also under Tailwind, it will make you outspeed Garchomp by... I think 1 or 2 point. I think it's 1 point. But obviously I did this, but I mean, it clearly worked, got me to number 1 in the world. So yeah, pretty good. Terra Ghost was obviously to stop like Fake Out, just like the same case with Whimsicott, and then Light Screen Reflect was to support the team. Thunder Wave was for speed control. Spirit Break, really nice move. Grimmsnarl, surprisingly, could actually do like a lot of damage if left unchecked. Not a lot of people know this, but it actually has the same exact attack stat as Dragapult, which is seen as like this really dominant physical attacker. So Dragapult's 120 and Grimmsnarl's also 120. So yeah, it actually could do a lot of damage. It was a really nice support option for the team. So yeah, that's essentially like how the team functions. It beats a good chunk of the matchups in the meta, and then has a lot of neutral matchups. The one matchup where it has a lot of issues against, and I think I might have mentioned it at the beginning of the video, was Follow Me next to Swords Dance King Gambit. That is like the one matchup that is a nightmare for this team. Obviously, if it's like Rage Powder next to King Gambit, that's a different story, because you could just Terra type with Annihilate into Grass and then just close combat and kill the Gambit. But if it's Follow Me with Swords Dance King Gambit, that is a really, really difficult matchup with this team. So just a fair warning to you guys out there that run into that matchup. Just if you get like crushed by it, I apologize. It's just the team wasn't made with that in mind. That was like the one matchup I just missed when I was making it, which is my fault. But yeah, so for anyone that wants to use the team, here's the rental code. All I ask is that if you do use this team on like a YouTube channel or on the internet or whatever, just please give me credit. I worked really hard on it, and it took me a while, and a lot of theory, and just a lot of stuff went into making this team. So just, yeah, that's all I ask, is just for credit in return. But with that being said, I want to thank you guys for the past, like, I think 2 weeks since I started the channel. You guys have really been very supportive, super nice. I mean, you all are awesome. But yeah, so this is the team. You guys are more than welcome to use it. I'm not going to be posting up a video, I think, until after Thanksgiving, just because the holidays are a little bit hectic with like family members and stuff. But yeah, I just want to get this out to you guys before the holidays begin, so you guys just have it. But yeah, so I hope you all have an awesome day. Thanks for the support, and I will see you all next time.